The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has released its report on our supermarkets, and the answer is there's not much that can be done about grocery prices, which just seem to be going up and up every week. The ACCC did not find that the major supermarket chains are guilty of any specific anti-competitive behaviour. No surprise then that Woolworths is loudly supporting the ACCC's findings. Not a good look though for the Rudd government. One of its major election promises was to keep grocery and petrol prices down. Now it's having to concede it may be near impossible to do that.
Now, they do have this new website they've set up called grocerychoice.gov, that's gov.gov.au. Had a look at it this morning. It ain't all that helpful, gotta say. It divides Sydney into regions like Outer Sydney Northwest, Inner Sydney West, Inner Sydney South, which, for example, is Rockdale, Cogra and Hurstville, or Outer Sydney South, Camden, Campbelltown, Sutherland, and so on. And they divide them up into sort of 4 or 5 bits. Coles, Bilo, Woolworths, Safeway, Franklin's, and then the Independents. And in the areas where there's an outlet, they have that too. There's not a lot of difference. For example, in Outer Sydney Northwest, which is Parramatta, Walkham Hills and Ryde, a basic... it's really hard to explain. They do meat and seafood basket, and a fruit and vegetable basket, and a dairy basket, and a bread and cereals basket, and so on, blah, blah, blah. And they total them all up. So, for example, in the Outer Sydney Northwest area, Parramatta, Walkham Hills, Ryde, Coles comes in at $152.71. Woolworths comes in slightly more expensive at $153.23. Franklin's is $161.01. And then the Independents, they say, $172.97.
Scott Driscoll is the Executive Director of the Retailers Association. He represents those independent grocers. He's on the line. Scott, good morning.
Morning, Sandy.
What's your reaction to the report?
Look, we're very disappointed. I've got to say that there was a whole lot of hope built up by this government going into the last election that there would be some genuine action taken against grocery prices. As independent retailers, we were very keen to see that happen on behalf of consumers. Really, we understood that the 80% duopoly held by Coles and Woolworths is what is delivering Australia the highest rate of grocery inflation in the entire OECD. The back of that duopoly needed to be broken. This report really doesn't seem to go terribly far towards doing that.
But the ACCC didn't find that the major supermarkets are guilty of anti-competitive behaviour.
No, well, that's the interesting part. And as you said in your introduction, the Woolworths people and Coles people would be coming out and very heartily supporting this. But I think the reality is, and anyone who looked closely at the procedures within this inquiry, there's an awful lot of contradictions in the report, I've got to say, and we're very disappointed to see that unfortunately the inquiry seems to have bought the line of Coles and Woolworths. Indeed, the government came out some time back before there was any findings on the table and was starting to preempt what they believe should be their, I suppose, spin as to how they can sell their promise pre-election that they would put downward pressure on pricing. And unfortunately,
but how can a government, any government, put downward pressure on the prices charged by private business?
Well, as we said in the inquiry, the way to do that is the same way that many overseas countries do that, and that is to not let two organisations like Coles and Woolworths have such a massive slice of the pie, 80% of the grocery spend in the country.
Well, they say it's not even 80%. The ACCC is saying it's not even 80%.
Well, they're fluffing around anything between 60, 70, accepting sometimes it might be 80 depending on the type of goods. I mean, we've got statistics done by PricewaterhouseCoopers and other very reputable organisations when we've had surveys done into this that clearly show that Blind Freddy could see it's 80%. Now, as I said, the government seemed to be preempting a lot of this. They talked about relaxing foreign investment laws into letting the retail giants from overseas come in. Funnily enough, that's in the report. They were mooting the idea of unit pricing. Funnily enough, that's in the report. This has really turned into a political document, unfortunately, and I think the government built up so much expectation in going into the election, and now they're trying to spin their way out of it.
Not much can be done, and not much has changed, really, has it?
Look, not a lot will change under this, but I mean, what they have addressed, at least, is the notion that creeping acquisitions by Coles and Woolworths are indeed having a negative effect. But unfortunately, creeping acquisitions only address part of the tactics that Coles and Woolworths use to lock out competition.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Scott Driscoll from the Independent Retailers Association.
And I suppose he would say that because the independents do it tough. Their basket that you talked about earlier, Mike, is more expensive than any of the the others, so clearly the supermarkets can offer products at cheaper prices, and the independents do it tough. I don't know what he meant about the ACCC giving us a soft finding. Perhaps he's saying it was a political report just about sums it up.
But again, just getting back to this website, Inner Sydney South, which is Rockdale, Cogra, Hurstville, again, this ACCC website's done the comparison. At Coles Bilo, $153.78. Woolworths Safeway, $156.45. Franklin's, $164.24. And then the independents, $169.12. So Woolworths and Coles are sort of line ball as the cheapest. Franklin's is more expensive, and then the independent's more expensive again.
But not a lot between them, is there?
But does it actually tell us anything we don't know anyway?
No.
Probably not.